That's me. When I was a kid, I was the crybaby. I wasn't the cute single tear kind, but the full-blown, red-eyed, dramatic sob, Oscar-worthy meltdown kind. If my dress wasn't giving the flair it should have after trying 21 dresses, I cried. If my drawing smudged, I cried. And if I didn't have the same thing as my sister, oh, apocalypse. I was basically a storm wrapped in pink hair clips, and my parents, poor things, stopped reacting as my sobs became background music. Back then, pain was simple. You felt it, you expressed it, and you moved on. But strangely, my meltdowns used to immediately pause the moment someone else entered the house, as if nothing had happened a few seconds ago. I didn't know what I was doing back then, but looking back, I realized that I somehow knew how emotions change when they're seen, and how we all instinctively curate what people get to witness. And that's where this strange transformation from feeling pain to performing it began. But today, pain feels different. Because it's no longer something you feel, but rather something you frame, glamorize, and polish. Because tell me something. Have you ever sat in a dark room watching The Fault in Our Stars, knowing you'd cry and still pressed play? Or screamed to the lyrics of Driver's License even when you didn't relate? It's almost like we choose heartbreak, and that's strange, isn't it? We call ourselves the most rational species on earth, and yet we pay to feel sadness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is precisely the paradox I wish to dissect today. Over the years, I've failed and I've lost. A few months back, I lost that one friendship that meant the world to me. You know, the kind that understands your silences and knows what your next move is going to be. And losing them wasn't a loud, dramatic fight. It was the slow kind. The kind where messages get shorter, calls get rarer, and one fine day, you realize that the person who was your go-to for everything became a stranger with a familiar face. I remember losing that leadership opportunity I really wanted. You know, the one I worked hard for. Because having it slip away meant the door of the version I was trying to be slammed right shut on my face. Through these instances, the world around me seemed to fall apart. And I obviously couldn't just move on because the loss wasn't just opportunities or people. It was tiny little mosaics that shaped me. But rather than ranting or journaling, I found myself listening to a playlist literally called Songs to Cry in the Dark To. Through tears and verses, I had an epiphany. Wait, aren't we chasing sadness? Maybe, in some strange way, we need it. We need the sobby reels and the pain in others' eyes to feel better about ourselves. I scroll through reels and I come across a video of someone crying in the perfect soft lighting, perfect mascara, Taylor Swift in the background. And I pause, wondering, wait, did they have the camera ready before they started crying, or did they set up the tripod before the breakdown? Maybe, maybe not. But what I do know is this. When someone posts a breakdown, people rush in to comment, "Oh my god, you're so real, I so relate." But when someone posts about a good day, people scroll past. And I'm not afraid to admit that we've all played into this at some point. But what's stranger to me is how normal it has become to curate pain and think of happiness as inferior or embarrassing. Because let's be honest, sadness gets you views, validation, sympathy, attention. Basically all we need. Someone says, "I'm so tired, I've barely slept for 2 hours." And someone else would jump in with, "I've barely slept since the past 3 days." Suddenly, this becomes a game of comparison, proving who's more tired, more hurt, more broken, who has it harder. Wait, does this mean pain makes you worthy? But think about this. A kid riding a bicycle falls down, scrapes his knees and starts crying. And a person with cancer goes up to them and says, "Oh, this is nothing. I have cancer." This sounds cruel. And it is. Because pain doesn't stop existing when someone else has more of it. And yet we do this to ourselves every day. We rank hurt, compare exhaustion, and then decide whose pain deserves to be heard. And that's when I realized, if all of us are curating pain, choosing it, and then performing it all the time, then it can't just be teen angst or too many Taylor Swift songs. It is perhaps more than that. It is perhaps a pattern that we're all unknowingly following. And that's when the "I swear I'm not a bookish nerd" part of me whispered. This is literally behavioral economics. I started pondering about the similarity of our emotions and how the world works, and I came to realize the economics and logic of pain. How we choose it, invest in it, and replay it in our own hands even when it hurts. The sunk cost fallacy by Arx and Bloomer explains how we continue a behavior simply because we've already invested so much in it. Think of it like watching a terrible movie because you've already bought the ticket and the popcorn. We do the same thing in life. We stay in friendships that drain us because we've already been through so much together. We chase goals that no longer fulfill us because we've already given it our all. And that basically means that we choose to go through things in life that no longer fulfill us because giving up feels wasteful. Then there's loss aversion by Kahneman and Tversky. And this one really hits home. They basically discovered how losing something hurts twice as much as gaining something equivalent makes us happy. You could get 10 compliments today and 1 insult, but you'll keep thinking about the insult. You could have 10 people who care about you, but your mind will cling to the one who doesn't. Our brains and hearts aren't wired to cherish and celebrate what we have, but rather mourn and yearn for what we don't. And that basically means that we don't chase happiness, but rather sadness and the fear of losing happiness. These are different ideas to express our affinity to sorrow. Pain makes us feel alive in a way happiness never does. And honestly, that's beautiful and terrifying at the same time. But here's the irony. We glamorize pain, call it growth, define it in motivational speeches. But most of the time, it's just repetition of circling back into the same maze that makes you feel something. We choose it and then nurture it into playlists, reels, and songs. To conclude my notion, it is important to realize that failure and sadness aren't just motivational lessons. They're investments in who we become. Pain, dear audience, is therefore not merely endured, but actively chosen. But using it as a shield, a mode of comparison, doesn't have to be. So the next time you find sorrow surrounding you or your loved ones, hold on for a moment. Think about the story of the kid who fell from the cycle and ask yourself, do I want to be the cancer patient? And you'll know what you need to do next. The next time life knocks you down, rather than glamorizing your hall of pain, think about why you perceive what you do. Measure the return on risk and create a life better than comfort and ignorance could ever buy. And that, right there, is the economics of being human. Thank you.